Dr. Harris sat across from Dr. Laine, fingers gripping the armrests of the leather chair. The office was too bright, too sterile, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling in their mind. For years, they'd dismissed the lapses in memory, the moments of waking up in unfamiliar places with no recollection of how they'd gotten there. The whispers, though, those were harder to ignore. They came in the dead of night, murmuring words in a voice that was both theirs and not. Dr. Laine leaned forward, steepling his fingers. "You're not experiencing dissociative identity disorder," he said, his tone measured but edged with something unreadable. "Your symptoms don't align with a split personality." The words should have been a relief. Instead, a cold knot tightened in Dr. Harris's stomach. "Then what is it?" The psychiatrist hesitated, his gaze flickering to the window as if something outside had caught his attention. "There's no easy way to say this. The voices, the blackouts, they're not coming from you. At least, not from any part of you that belongs here." Dr. Harris's breath hitched. "What does that mean?" Dr. Laine's next words were barely above a whisper. "It means something else is sharing your mind. And I don't think it's human." The room seemed to tilt. Dr. Harris's pulse roared in their ears, drowning out the faint, mocking laughter that echoed from somewhere deep inside their skull. A voice, slick and foreign, cooed, "Finally, he sees." See, Dr. Laine's expression darkened. "You heard that, didn't you?" Dr. Harris could only nod, their throat too tight to speak. The diagnosis wasn't an answer. It was the beginning of a nightmare. Dr. Harris had always prided themselves on their meticulous nature, their life neatly organized, until the day they found the journal tucked beneath a loose floorboard in their study. The leather cover was worn, the pages yellowed with age, yet the handwriting was unmistakably their own. But these words weren't theirs. The entries spanned months, detailing events they had no memory of: midnight walks to forgotten alleys, whispered conversations with the darkness, and worse, far worse. The descriptions were clinical, detached, as if observing from a distance. A subject 12 exhibited signs of distress upon recognizing the truth. Termination was swift. Dr. Harris's hands trembled as they turned the pages, each one more unsettling than the last. Then came the name the Watcher. The entries spoke of it as a presence, a thing that lingered just beyond sight, its eyeless gaze piercing through every lie, every secret. It knew their fears, their regrets, the things they'd buried deep. One passage stood out, the ink slightly smudged as if written in haste. "It's inside me now." Not just watching, waiting. The word sent a cold ripple down their spine. The journal ended abruptly, mid-sentence, as if the writer had been interrupted, or taken. Dr. Harris flipped to the front, searching for a date, and their blood turned to ice. The first entry was from the day they'd moved into the apartment, a day they remembered clearly. But they'd never kept a journal. The night air was thick with a damp, oppressive stillness as Dr. Harris trudged down the dimly lit sidewalk, their breath visible in the cold. The streetlights flickered intermittently, casting long, wavering shadows that seemed to twist and coil like living things. It had been another sleepless night, another evening spent pacing their apartment, trying to ignore the whispers that slithered through their mind like serpents. A walk, they reasoned, might clear their head. Then they saw it. At the edge of an alley, half hidden by the shifting darkness, stood a figure, tall, emaciated, its elongated limbs too thin to be human. Its face was a smooth, featureless expanse except for a slit where a mouth should be. No eyes, no nose, just that terrible, gaping maw. Dr. Harris froze, their pulse hammering in their throat. The thing didn't move, didn't breathe, but they could feel its attention like a physical weight pressing down on them. Then it spoke. Dr. Harris. But the voice was wrong. A wet, guttural rasp, as if forced through a throat that had never been meant for speech. "You dream of drowning, don't you? Of hands dragging you under?" Their blood turned to ice. No one knew about the nightmares. No one. The Watcher took a step forward, its skeletal fingers twitching. "You're afraid you're losing yourself, but you never had a choice." A scream lodged in Dr. Harris's chest. They spun and ran, their shoes slapping against the pavement, the sound of their own panic deafening. Behind them the whisper came again, softer now, as if spoken directly into their ear despite the distance. "I'll see you soon." Back in their apartment, door locked, lights blazing, Dr. Harris clutched their knees to their chest, trembling. The encounter had lasted mere seconds, but the terror was indelible. The Watcher knew them intimately. And worse, as they stared into the mirror, they could have sworn, just for a moment, that their own reflection had no eyes. Dr. Harris sat in the dimly lit office of Dr. Klein, fingers gripping the armrests of the chair as though they might crumble to dust at any moment. The room smelled of old books and antiseptic, but all they could focus on was the pounding of their own heart. They had barely slept since the encounter with the Watcher, and the journal's entries, filled with horrors they couldn't remember writing, haunted their every waking moment. Dr. Klein, a lean man with sharp eyes, studied their trembling hands before flipping through the notes they'd provided. After a long silence, Dr. Klein leaned forward, his voice low and deliberate. Your symptoms don't align with dissociative identity disorder. The voices, the blackouts, they're not fragments of your psyche. He paused, lips pressing into a thin line. The entity you describe isn't a personality. It's something else, something that shouldn't exist. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Dr. Harris felt a chill crawl down their spine. Dr. Klein continued explaining ancient texts and accounts of possessions, not by demons but by things far older, far hungrier. Things that clung to souls like parasites, feeding on fear and memory. He gestured to the journal. This watcher isn't just following you. It's part of you now. And it's growing stronger. The revelation twisted in Dr. Harris's gut. They wanted to scream to deny it, but deep down they knew. The whispers in their mind, the unfamiliar handwriting, it was all real. As they left the office, the weight of Dr. Klein's warning pressed down on them. The watcher wasn't just an illusion or a figment of madness. It was something far worse. And it was waiting for them. The journal entries grew increasingly unsettling, each page filled with frantic scribbles and diagrams of strange symbols. Dr. Harris's hands trembled as they traced the faded ink, their pulse quickening at the mention of Blackwood Asylum. A place they'd never heard of, yet somehow knew by heart. The final entry was a set of directions, as if the writer had anticipated their discovery. The words burned in their mind: find the circle. Remember the promise. A rain lashed against the windshield as Dr. Harris drove through the storm, the headlights cutting through the darkness like a knife. The asylum loomed ahead, its crumbling walls and boarded windows a monument to forgotten horrors. The air inside was thick with the scent of mildew and something older, something metallic. Their flashlight flickered as they stepped over broken glass, the beam revealing faded bloodstains on the floor. Deep in the asylum's basement, they found it. A ritual chamber. The floor was etched with a massive, intricate sigil, its grooves still darkened with what looked like dried blood. Scattered candles, long since burned to stubs, surrounded the design. And in the center, a name scratched into the stone: Harris. A cold laugh echoed through the room and Dr. Harris spun around, their breath ragged. The watcher stood in the doorway, its eyeless face tilted in amusement. You finally came? It whispered, its voice like nails on glass. Sss. Then the memories surged. Flashes of a night decades ago, a desperate ritual, a bargain made. Harris staggered backward, clutching their head as the truth tore through them. They hadn't been chosen. They had volunteered. The watcher wasn't an intruder, it was a guest. And the ritual had never ended. Dr. Harris wakes to a face that isn't quite theirs. The reflection in the mirror flickers, sometimes familiar, sometimes a gaunt, hollow-eyed stranger. They press trembling fingers to their cheeks, feeling the bones beneath shift uncomfortably, as if something beneath the skin is rearranging itself. The whispers in their head have grown louder, no longer just voices but sensations, memories that don't belong to them. Flashes of dark corridors, the scent of damp earth, the taste of copper, foreign yet intimate. Meetings with colleagues become impossible. Dr. Klein's voice drifts in and out of focus as the watcher's presence swells, answering questions in a voice that isn't Harris's. They catch themselves writing in the journal again, their hand moving without command, filling pages with symbols and words in a language they've never learned. The entries speak of the ritual, of the binding, of a hunger that gnaws at the edges of their soul. At night, the merging is worse. Their dreams are no longer dreams but shared visions, scenes from the watcher's past, horrors inflicted and endured. Harris wakes with mud under their nails, their throat raw from screaming words they don't remember speaking. The line between host and passenger dissolves. They feel the watcher's anger, its hunger, its cruel amusement at their struggle. Worst of all is the knowing, the certainty deep in their marrow that resistance is futile. The watcher was never separate. It has always been there, woven into their very being, waiting for the walls to thin enough to claim what was always theirs. Harris's breaths come shallow as the truth settles. They are not being consumed. They are remembering what they have always been. The air was thick with the scent of decay as Dr. Harris stood in the ruins of the asylum, the crumbling walls echoing with the whispers of the watcher. The figure emerged from the shadows, its eyeless face fixed on them, its voice a grating, otherworldly hum. You have come so far, it murmured, but now you must choose. The words slithered into Dr. Harris's mind, carrying the weight of inevitability. The choice was simple: surrender entirely, allowing the watcher to consume them, or resist and be erased. Their consciousness dissolved like smoke in the wind. Clutching the journal, Dr. Harris's fingers trembled. The pages had brought them here, revealing the truth in jagged, frantic script. This was where the watcher had been bound to its first host decades ago, and now it sought a new vessel. A surge of defiance tightened their chest. No, they thought, I won't let it end this way. With a desperate lunge, Dr. Harris grabbed a rusted piece of debris and swung at the watcher, but the figure merely dissolved into the dark, its laughter reverberating through the ruins. Heart pounding, Dr. Harris stumbled back, gripping the journal tighter. The final page fluttered open, and what they saw drained the blood from their face. A single line, written in their own handwriting but with a malice they didn't recognize. "AC, the choice was never yours." The words twisted in their mind, and suddenly Dr. Harris understood. Every decision, every step leading here, had been orchestrated. The Watcher wasn't offering surrender. It was asserting victory. The merging was complete. A scream tore from their throat, but it was no longer wholly their own. The shadows swallowed them whole, and the asylum fell silent at last.